Oh, that's all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we're recording, Greg. Hey,
Uh,
everybody. I'm Dan Fredenberg. It's awesome to see you again. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I got to change my background to be a little more business like.
Less,
Check that
less
out.
Alpine.
Less
Okay.
alpine. I was getting a little cold.
This is our podcast called Yeah, But, and the whole point is we discuss commercial real estate, the state of things, things we see on the news, and just people being talkative about it. And we say it's like, well, the reality's a little bit different from how it's immediately appearing to be. So we try to talk about things that are really hot, and one right now is the whole stance that everybody needs a podcast. Now, of course, if you're a marketer, that's one element of what I do. Then you need to find something that you can charge for. So that's one reason that I can think of a lot of people saying you need a podcast. But what are your thoughts, Greg? Like, and maybe you can give some background about your main podcast.
Yeah, I changed my background again because my opinions and views may not represent the opinions and views of my partner. So I will represent all of nature in Alaska instead.
Mm.
Um, Thanks for mentioning the podcast, and we do have a podcast, the Real Wealth Solutions podcast, that we are in whatever 60 episodes or so. We're in season 2, so it's probably more than that. Do I believe everybody needs a podcast? No, probably not. I'm pretty happy with the experience we've had with ours. We don't have the numbers of Brian Briscoe or Whitney Sewell or anything like that, but we do get feedback from it from our modest amount of listeners. And I think on the whole, it has been a benefit. Yeah, but, or however, there's quite a bit that goes into it, um, of which more we should offload because when I say we have a podcast, that's myself and our partner Darren Light, but our other partner Kim Scully does the vast majority of the work associated with the podcast. So um, I would say they are beneficial. I would also say they are extremely time consuming.
So that brings me to I did this huge organic experiment, and it behooved me because I was in the of the business of marketing. So one of the things that I know is very tempting for people is to take a 100% organic approach to building their business or their personal brand or whatever it is. And I was of the mind where, because I'd seen, like 6-figure ad spends in a month, I knew that if people were doing that, then either the people who were paying the money were complete idiots, or organic was dead. In other words, if you build it, they will not come. That was one of the things that was going through my head, and then I ended up doing 366 videos on 366 topics and releasing them in 366 days. And so part of the experience for me is I wanted to make sure I made a mental note of, if I didn't have that end in mind where I had to finish that number, okay, and if I wasn't proving a point, where would I have hit the panic button and said, it's like, okay, there's not a human on earth that isn't going to start spending money on their efforts after this point. And I found that was about at my 6-month mark. It's like, at 6 months, I don't care who you are, you're going to start spending on ads by that point, because you're going to be like, this, I need this to work faster than this. Is
Yeah.
basically the takeaway. So that's my standard as far as feeling like you're throwing away time on a podcast or content like that. Which is like, that's where I put the ad spend on. Now in your 60-ish episodes of your podcast, do you have like a number as far as like where you think you get to this number of episodes and then it's like, all right, well, this isn't for me, or just like is there a number where you felt like this was the bare minimum amount of commitment that you need to have to this to make it make any sense?
Well, like how many episodes in we should
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, saying like, where did like, were there any milestones like I was describing with my 6 month mark, where I was saying like I don't care who you are, I don't care what level of initiative and ambition you have. It's 6 months in, you're going to be spending on ads for sure. You will not be able to contain your willpower not to, hit that button and say it's like I have to spend money to promote this because this
Yeah,
is.
I think you're right. I mean, we've spent a little bit of money because we got like some Facebook marketing credits or something, and Kim will deploy them one way or another to
Mhm,
try and get a little bump in exposure.
mhm,
We are otherwise just completely organic,
mhm,
and probably our numbers validate that
mhm,
because yeah, it's very slow, monotonous growth.
mhm.
Um, I could see doing the spend to get to a specific level. Like I would, we're not even at 1,000 downloads a month yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's definitely kind of like our first hurdle that we're like specifically working towards to try and achieve.
Mhm.
But can we get there without spend? Probably. How long will it take? How many more hours of recording time and editing and organic promotion will it take? I have no idea.
Mhm.
Um, but I think you'll eventually get there. But it's a slog. It's a slow slog. There's a ton of competition there.
Yeah.
Everybody started a podcast during the COVID,
Right.
which is still kind of going on, of course.
Right. So would you say like, like if you get to 10 episodes and it's not working for you, you should tap out, or is it 20 or is it 30? Like what kind of like are there any milestones that you felt like a shift of it's like, okay, I think most people would give up by this point or something like that. Like.
I would say you got to give it 6 months or something because it takes 10, a dozen episodes just to kind of hit your stride of being comfortable, unless you're like super comfortable doing this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So you have to get past just the flat out learning curve.
Mhm.
Um, and then, getting people on the schedule is not, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's time consuming in itself. So yeah, are you willing to make that continued time commitment so that it doesn't affect your quality? We've been in that space where like, we have a bunch in the can and then we have like nothing scheduled, and then you're kind of rushing to get something edited, and probably our quality dips a little bit when you're in those situations. Maybe nobody notices, I don't know, but we certainly feel the anxiety associated with it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would commit to 6 months for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we do it. We're not using any VAs at this point. That's something we're looking to switch to because we are recognizing the return on effort equation part of it.
Mhm.
Are there other things that can be doing in our business right now?
Mhm.
Probably.
Mhm.
So we are starting to go that route a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep, that makes lots of sense. Yep. So the next part that I have here is about vanity metrics, and so one thing that I've been doubling down, tripling down in is LinkedIn, and I'm working on that one. And one of the appeals that I've heard brought up about LinkedIn is that you can't buy followers. There's no way to
Oh, really?
actually. Yeah, yeah. It's well, they're very careful. The administrators are very careful with any sort of spammy behavior on LinkedIn, and I think it's probably because a lot of people complain that their DM box is a disaster.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
getting creamed, And so I think that's what they're really fixing. But I know that there was another real estate investor I helped recently who they ended up enlisting the help of some virtual assistant service or something like that on LinkedIn, and because they were taking an extroverted approach, they were spamming the hell out of the DMs, and so they got their account shut down. So I ended up helping him out and getting his account reinstated. But just the fact that that's something people need to be concerned about, I think it's a pretty big thing. But like as far as YouTube or like iTunes, I don't use anything Apple. So I don't even. It's
Yeah, I
like
don't either.
okay, yeah, it always drives me crazy too because it's just like, oh, well, make sure you leave us a good review on iTunes, and it's just like,
Well, I mean, but that's where most of our downloads are.
yeah,
Is Apple Podcast or whatever they call it now.
hmm, well, there you go. So yeah, I know that that was a thing back with YouTubers, getting a bunch of subscribers that way by just buying them. There'll be, you know, tens of thousands of people in India or something who are more than willing to subscribe to your channel.
I don't think there's much discussion that the numbers count one way or another does help with credibility. Just the optics of seeing that somebody has a large following tends to ring with people. I think we're all, there must be something to it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you know if they're bought or not? I don't know. You know,
Right, right. So, so there
I
you
mean,
go.
that's a good starting point. Ultimately, you look at the content and you make a decision if it's a good fit for you and you'll continue to follow or not. But
Mhm.
it is, there's definitely some value to having a respectable amount of followers that will, it's kind of like a Google review.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, they got 4.5 stars based on 3 reviews. I'm like, okay, who cares? That's
Right.
mom, dad, and the manager all left a review.
Mhm.
But if there's 120 reviews,
Mhm.
that means a lot more to me.
Yeah, and then the platform comes into play as well, right? So, like for example, the person I'm working with is Shanae Murray, and she's got 1 million followers on LinkedIn. And I was looking, actually, it's weird; it changed over the last week. I was looking at Canada's six biggest banks, and in general they all had about a 500,000 followers, and the number one had like 600 something thousand, but I saw it today and they're up to 700,000, so they're moving on up
Wow.
in
They
the
must have
world.
really good content.
Oh, it must be, yeah, amazing, because I always want to follow a bank to find out
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
ing
When they
ing
refresh the dum dums on the top of
right,
the
right.
counter there.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's one of the real questions though is like I know that I've made up my mind about how like having 1 million followers on LinkedIn, it's worth way more than having 1 million followers or likes on your Facebook page or something like, just like, or the basically that sort of equivalent. Like it means way more to me. But like what's your perception as far as these different platforms are going out there? Like what's your take?
What do I prefer?
Well, or it's just like when you hear that somebody has like I like a lot of whatever's, like followers or whatever, if they say it's like on Instagram or it's on TikTok or it's on
I'm
YouTube
like, okay,
or
whatever.
okay, so you like it doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter on any of them. You're not sitting there, going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's like, okay, that means this, or that means that.
No, not really. Maybe subliminally or subconsciously, there's some weight put on it. I think it just comes back to the credibility thing, and that's one advantage of a podcast or having an active LinkedIn um, presence is that people will find you. You might have a conversation. They see some of your posts. Ultimately, at some point, they're going to check you out.
Hmm. Hmm. And
And
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Oh, just that, that you have a podcast, that you run a meetup, and you've got a web page, and you are reasonably active on a platform with halfway decent content beyond, thanks for adding value, or
Right.
whatever. Um, then yeah, that's valuable. Um, I wouldn't say I'd make any decisions based on it, though.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, we were talking also about like how so much of having a podcast. Well, we were saying this before we hit record, but we didn't really hit it after we were talking about it. It's like how much of making a podcast feels like a complete waste of time. And for me, it's like oh, it absolutely does, and it's pretty amazing because for example, with my Chance Encounters series, with the different commercial real estate investors, in general, they're 13 minutes or less. And so there really isn't a more valuable use of my time than just having somebody who's undistracted, and we're just talking about, okay, what's your motivation for your next deal, and what role are you likely to play in taking it down or operating it or flipping it. So like that's what I really need to know, and I also need it in a way where I can find it real quick, right? So, and why not make it public? And then that way I'm documenting the relationship, before there even is one. This like there's no more efficient use of my time, but it feels like a waste of time. It feels like I'm just, having fun, I guess.
Um, you know, we have gotten more efficient with how we do it, which has solved some of those problems. Like, we were recording every week, sometimes a couple of them a day, which is nothing compared to what some people are doing with a podcast every day type thing, like the Whitney Sewells and stuff. I don't know how they do that. Um, so it got to be a little bit of a drag on the schedule, and then we just made adjustments. Now we're recording once a month.
Mm.
So instead of saying 4 days a week, potentially, you're kind of not shot, but we're going to be spent with a lot of time on camera and recording. We're 1 day a month we're doing it now, and we used to go out of our schedule to accommodate people a lot more. We don't do that anymore. They're like, oh, none of those times really work for us. Can you do something in the evening? We used to say yes a lot more. Now we don't. So you just guard your time. I mean, selfishly, I do enjoy it. So I like the longer form conversations more than I do, posting on social media. So I do enjoy it. So that's helpful. And to your point, yeah. And I can make it public, and other people can hopefully learn from it and enjoy it as well. Okay, bonus. Everybody wins.
Yeah. So that's basically it. So that's our yeah but topics. Does everybody actually need a podcast? Like where exactly do you hit that button and say, I really ought to be doing something else with my time. I think, yeah, like the format itself, I was saying that it's 13 minutes long most of the time. And so editing it, I've now got a format, and it just reinforces itself. And I think the other thing that's neat about it is people, they feel a lot more confident because, it's multiple choice. I'm feeding them the answers just before I ask them. And there is the one tricky question is that I ask, so who are you? But actually, I should probably announce that too. That I've got a new podcast that I'm coming out with. It's being housed at whoareyouhelping.com. Who are you helping? See, and this is a great tie-in because I mentioned before that the Chance Encounters are with commercial real estate investors, and I had some brokers that I wanted to, cultivate that relationship, and I wanted to speak to them, but I was really struggling to figure out what I'd be able to ask them that would be that interesting. Because like in general, like when it comes to a broker, you think it's like, well, if there's a place that I want to buy a property, I'll find out who the brokers are and I'll ask them. It's I'm not going to go onto a podcast and find and do that. But if I frame it in the format of who are you helping, then we're getting warmer because then what you can do is as a broker I can say it's like, okay, so what are most of your deals, what's your expertise, or what are you passionate about selling and buying, and like what kind of like if you're looking for potential buyers, like what's your sweet spot where like you just always have that, so then the person's telling you their specialization, and that usually isn't communicated very well in an ad. I think we don't really shop
Right.
for individual brokers, and I think it's a good way to highlight them. But I also like that you can talk to any entrepreneur and say, okay, so who are you helping? And then I'm just doing the same thing again, but just with different sorts of business owners. So that's another thing that I can announce. But I don't know. Do you have any other things that you can think of for brokers example? Because like Dan Lukowitz, I know that you know him as well, and he was who I was thinking about when I was making this. I was going like, okay, well, he's a broker. How do I allow him to deliver value to my list? Regardless of if they've got a problem with Michigan or not.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. The who are you helping? It's far more specific than a generic interview because it cuts to a singular aspect of what everybody needs. Is like this is what they're offering, and I'm either in that box or not, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, and it's also a straighter line for that's not me, but that sounds like my buddy Jim, though.
Right,
I
right,
can, I can like, hey, you got to listen to Dan's thing with Dan,
right.
and he was talking about what you were talking to me about the other day. So yeah, I mean that shorter stuff is good. Ours is longer.
Mhm.
We go an hour. I mean, you're going to have a similar time commitment by the time you have four of them done
Right.
between scheduling and talking to people and stuff. But for us, an hour podcast is probably a 2 hour time commitment for me. And I
Mhm.
don't do the editing. And then Kim does the editing and
Right.
listens to it at a higher speed. Thank you, Dan, for that, getting her accustomed to that to keep that time limit down. So just remember one way or the other, if you're doing the shorter, more condensed format or longer form conversational, you're going to spend some time on it one way or the other.
Right, right. So yeah, the other name I was thinking about, because this gives me another question for you, which is the
Oh no.
important questions for brokers. And like another name that I was thinking was for the other thing you really want to know when you're talking to a broker is you're saying like, okay, so who are your pocket buyers, right? Like that's what you really want to know, but they're not going to tell you, and they're not going to let you put it on the internet. Are you kidding? And so like to
Right.
be cute, I was going like, hey, well, what if I had a snappy name? And I was thinking Dr. Oppename.
Dr.
Drop a-
Oppename?
Yeah, Dr. Oppename.
Oh,
Drop a name.
oh,
Right, and I was like, okay, well, that's fun, and like maybe I'll find some sort of thing for that brand as well. But no, I didn't pick that one up. I got whoareyouhelping.com, and I think that'll be a really neat way for anybody to express something real quickly, and so just get that conversation out there of like, okay, so who is it and what are you do, or what is it you do? And then that way it's like, okay, I know who to refer to, and I know like you're going to pick up certain things about the person's level of sophistication, and so it's just opening up that door of being able to interview anybody, because there are some people where it's like, okay, who are you now? Oh, it's a commercial real estate investor. It's like, okay, but I'm in films. It's like nah. Anyway, so this has been, yeah, but it's been an interesting little conversation, I think, Greg. So
yeah.
It's great talking to you again. And so you in the internet and the other side of the camera, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because that way YouTube pays for these videos instead of us. And that's totally the worst part of podcasting, as far as I'm concerned. Recording a show is the fact that YouTube doesn't pay you unless
Oh,
a
yeah,
bunch of
and
people.
engagement. So make sure you listen to the Real Wealth Solutions podcast on your favorite podcast
Right.
platform.
And leave a 5-star
Leave a
review.
5-star review and
Right.
subscribe on Apple Podcast or whatever it's called.
Yeah, on the Apple thing.
Truly appreciate it. I mean, I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but you got
Yeah,
to ask.
it really is amazing. It makes a difference, and it's
Yeah.
being a part of people's lives. All right. So thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.
See you later. I better put my jacket on. Sun's going down.